Hey guys, this is Cameron with Kyborg Studios. I wanted to make a PETG visor dyeing video to help out anyone trying to tackle this process on their own. This tutorial was inspired by Cosplay Forresol's fantastic PETG visor dyeing video. I just wanted to add a few tips on my own. There's a link to their video in the description. Throughout the video, I'm going to be making some recommendations of the tools that I like to use. I'll also be putting their links down below. I wanted to begin by recommending that you do this outside. The steam from the pot will pick up bits of the dry dye powder as you add it and leave it all over your kitchen. As an alternative, I recommend using an outdoor jet propane burner. I'd also recommend purchasing a new or used pot specifically for this purpose. You don't want to eat out of this after you're done. A 3-gallon stainless pot is the perfect size for my Protogen visors and 5 gallons for my Cyber Anubis. You'll need 2 packets of black eye-dye poly for the 3-gallon pot and 3 to 4 for the 5-gallon. Begin by filling your pot a few inches below the top and bring it to a boil. The color you see in the water here is old dye left over in my pot. Once you've got a rolling boil, lower the gas in your burner as low as you can while maintaining the boil. When you go to add dye, it increases the amount that the water bubbles very rapidly, and it can spill over the edge if too hot. Despite what the instructions say, don't put the entire bag of dye into the pot. I find the dissolvable bag leaves particulate in the dye. Shake the bag of dye down and clip off the top. Slowly pour small amounts of the dye into the pot and stir gently. Next, add the color intensifier. Occasionally stir the pot and make sure to scrape the edges of the water line to remove built-up dye. Next, shut off the heat. Add a bit of cold water to bring up the water level and bring it back to a boil. This is to make sure any additional built-up dye around the edges is dissolved. Shut off the heat again and begin to let the dye cool. While it's still hot, use pieces of lint-free paper shop towels to skim the surface of the dye. This removes bits of undissolved dye as well as the copper-colored film on the surface. Make sure to rub the water line of the pot with the towels as well. You'll know you're done when you can no longer see the copper film. Be careful not to burn yourself. Add more cold water to bring the water level close to the top of the pot and let cool. Between 140 and 150 degrees Fahrenheit is where we want to begin dyeing. Any hotter will warp your visor and any cooler won't dye it. Once you reach this temperature, skim any additional contaminants and test the dye with a piece of scrap PETG. If you see any tiny black spots on your PETG, you need to skim more. Now for the exciting part. Remove the protective film from both sides of your visor and slowly dip it in angled to prevent any bubbles from getting caught under. If your visor sticks out of the surface, add a bit more water. It is very important that during the entire dyeing process, especially when adding or removing the visor from the pot, that you not let the visible parts of the visor touch the sides or bottom of the pot. If you do, you'll get a large black spot of built-up dye on your visor. It's okay if the edges of the visor touch. This is key to a good finish. Here's a previous example of what those black spots will turn out looking like. After about 8 minutes, you're ready to check your visor. While removing it, swish it in the dye bath a few times to remove any dye spots. Dunk and swish the visor thoroughly in cold water before returning it to the bath. After 2 or 3 soaks, your visor should be dyed enough. Here it is next to a previous visor for comparison. If you dye it too lightly, viewers will be able to see your face. Too dark and it will obscure any lighting or electronics you have shining through it. Give it a thorough wash in the cold water, rubbing gently with your fingertips to remove any copper sheen and spotting. Careful, no fingernails. Be careful when working with the drying visor. The edges will have the previously mentioned dye sludge built up on them. And that should be about everything you need to know. Make sure to tag any photos of your projects on Twitter with @Kyborg Studios. I'm looking forward to seeing them.